Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Radical Candor podcast. Today, we have a bonus episode about management dilemmas. To discuss a management dilemma with me is Dick Costolo. Dick is the managing partner and co-founder at O1 Advisors. He was the CEO at Twitter from 2009 to 2015. Before that, he worked at Google, where I met him. And before that, he was the CEO of FeedBurner. Dick is also a comic, a stand-up comic. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking today. Welcome, Dick.
Wow, I love that introduction. I'll take it.
One of the things that inspired me to write Radical Candor was working with you at Twitter, Dick. And you said something to me that has always struck with me, which is it's fun to talk with you about management. So I thought we would maybe give other people the opportunity to join in our fun.
Great.
And you get a bunch of questions from your portfolio companies about sort of leadership dilemmas, and we get a bunch. So I wanted to start with one about promotions. And
we could talk about promotions for 4 hours probably, but go.
Yeah, we could, but we're going to just keep it to 20 minutes.
Great.
So what I thought we would do, I'm going to read this, and we'll take it from the point of view, giving some advice to the person who did not get promoted, and then maybe we'll give some unsolicited advice to this person's boss. All right, here we go. This person writes in, I'm in a bit of a predicament at work that I'd love to get your advice on. Background, I am a senior manager at a large company. For the past year and a half or so, I had been working with my manager on getting promoted. She told me that I was doing well, and at one point she said that she was, quote, sitting on her hands, unquote, waiting to promote me once she had the money in her budget. I would say the first red flag was sitting on her hands.
Yeah. Or there's already multiple red flags, but keep going.
Okay. Then my manager left the company, another red flag, and a promotion was made available. Given the conversations I'd had with my manager, I figured that I would be the obvious choice. Instead, I was passed over for someone else. I began working with my new manager to understand opportunities for advancement and shared that I had been working with my old boss on getting promoted to a director level position. This was news to her, so she said she would talk to her boss in order to see what was possible. Here we go.
Yeah.
Up the chain. It gets better. Get ready. This resulted in me meeting one-on-one with my boss's boss. Dialogue. Her. I did not know that you were up for promotion, so that wasn't even on my radar when I was planning these changes. Me. That's disappointing. I'm not sure what happened. That said, I understand that what's done is done. I'm more interested in what I can do moving forward. Her. Honestly, even if I had known, I still think I would have made the same decision. I've been hearing that you've been saying things like, this company owes me, and that your trust is broken. Yes. Me, internally, what? I did not say that. Me, out loud. I'm not sure where that's coming from because that's not how I feel. Her. Well, it's important that leaders in this company are all on the same page and are supportive of the changes that are being made. I know that you and I don't work very closely together, and we're not in a lot of the same meetings, but when we have been in meetings together, I've seen you be very positive and collaborative. So I haven't seen it, but it's important that the rest of the organization sees that side of you. I think you're a very valuable employee, and I'd be devastated if you left.
Good Lord.
So yes, this person says, for personal reasons, finding another job is, so this person is already predicting what we were going to say. Finding another job is not an option for at least another year. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and advice on this. Is there anything I can do to make the situation better?
Well, I mean, the first sets of things I would say are to the various people in management at her company. Like,
okay, let's start with that.
Let's start there. I mean, let's start with her first manager. The worst thing, the thing that I always would see, let me back up. One of the challenges managers have is they hate having hard conversations for some reason. I don't know why people want to be managers and then also hate having hard conversations, since it's a lot of what managers are supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
But the
that is
first
the
manager
job,
is
isn't
saying,
it?
I always used to say, the example I used to use in the managing a Twitter class was the manager saying to the employee, "Hey, nobody wants you to have I would just make an absurd subject so that it made the point instead of a promotion or I want to work on this project. I would make the manager, hey, nobody wants you to have a pancake more than me. I know that this time Bill was offered the pancake, but I trust me, I wanted you to have the pancake, but point to someone else, which happens later on in the story.
Yeah.
They decided,
You don't get the
already, by
pancake.
the way, already creating misery because you're now telling the employee like you don't have the power to make decisions. You're pointing at other people who apparently are making all the decisions that seem arbitrary and capricious to the employee. And B, these future promises that managers make, which inevitably causes the employees to quit. This person would obviously quit right now if they could and
Yeah.
can't for whatever reason. But this constant, I'm going to try to make this person feel better because this is a hard conversation at the expense of this person's, delight in working at the company 4 months from now. It happens all the time. It's just horrible. People do it with like, hey, I really want to work on this project, and then of course promotions. They do it with, I want to transfer to this other group. And managers are constantly saying things like, I've been sitting on my hands waiting to transfer you to this better group. No one wants you to be promoted more than me. It's like horrible. You can't do that. You just
Yeah.
can't say that kind of stuff. I mean, at the first manager should have at least said, look, you're already senior manager at the company. And when we're thinking about promotions to, let's call it director or vice president, those are no longer promotions that are based on, checking some boxes and meeting some set of qualifications. It's not like getting a driver's license where if you can parallel
Yeah.
park and know when to turn your brights on and off, you get a driver's license. That's not what makes you a VP or a director. We're in a dynamic organization. The needs of the senior management team are constantly changing. So there's no like checklist or to-do list of do these things and you get to be a director or vice president. It's constantly in flux. What I can tell you is we're going to evaluate your performance based on X, Y, and Z. And you should be thinking about your performance based on these KPIs. And let's constantly be checking in on those and how you're doing against those. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the discussion and maybe the end of the discussion from the first person.
Yeah. And what do you think was going on with the boss's boss? I mean, it seems like this was rolling
That's
down here hill because the
yeah,
boss's
I mean,
boss.
the boss's boss is an truly
Even
insane
worse.
conversation. Yeah,
Yes.
even worse. Like just first of all, to say I had no idea that you were interested in being promoted. Like that's just a stupid thing to say. Obviously,
Yeah.
in theory, everyone in the company who's not in some job where they never want to leave it, which is perfectly fine sometimes. In theory, managers in a company who have been progressing are interested in progressing in their careers. And one of the jobs of their managers is to help them understand how to be successful and progress in their careers. So to say, I had
Right.
no idea this is just something you were interested in is kind of stupid. To then
Yeah.
say, I've heard you're being pejorative, although I've never seen it. I've heard you're being, demeaning the company, although I've never seen it. It's like a Trump, lots of people say say bad things about the company. Personally, I've never seen it. I mean, that's like, I don't know how you could say anything more demotivating to this person than that.
Yeah. And therefore, I wouldn't have promoted you, even if I had known you
and
wanted a
therefore I wouldn't
promotion.
have promoted. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Therefore, I wouldn't have promoted you anyway. It's truly insane. This company suffers from a management structure that doesn't understand management and leadership, seemingly at multiple levels. So it's just the advice that I would give to the person, because they're clearly in an environment where management and leadership skills are challenged. The advice I would give to this person is go into your new manager and say, look, um, let's just be clear about the metrics and outcomes against which I'm going to be evaluated and which are the highest priority for us. And let's have a discussion about that. And I'm going to go, I'm going to go crush these metrics. And I would like to know over the long run, it doesn't have to be by a specific date, but I would like to know maybe over the medium term and long run, what that means for, both the company and me personally in my career. And at least start there. It sounds like there's just as always, this subjective, nobody wants you to be promoted more than me. I didn't know you wanted to be promoted. Let me go ask my boss. She says you should talk to her. I mean, it's craziness, but I would just at least get square on how this person, or at least if I were this person, get square on how I'm being evaluated so I can improve my value, both myself, my smaller organization, and the company at large.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. I think I would also say I've been thinking a lot about this. I wonder what you think, Dick. I feel like there are times in everyone's career where they're working with someone or for someone who doesn't use words to communicate. They use words to sort of push you away or
Of
maybe
course.
even bully you or obfuscate.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
words is and I think that when you recognize that people are using words that way, like spending a bunch of brain cells trying to parse their logic like, don't waste your breath, don't waste your energy, don't waste
Yeah,
your
yeah.
emotions.
We're on audio, but I was nodding vigorously while you were saying that. Like, yeah, the conversation with the boss's boss is not a conversation worth continuing once they've said. Also, I heard you tripped Bill in the hallway, and you were wanted by the campus police. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think we
Also,
can,
let me say one more thing. It is for really motivated employees who want to get ahead and are super ambitious. They do tend, I mean, I remember vividly more than a couple. I remember the first couple that came to me when I was a CEO of Twitter. People would come into my office and say, like, hey, I'm doing a great job as director of, function X, and I just got exceeds expectations on my last review. What do I need to do to become a VP? And I would tell them just what I said earlier. There's no check
yeah,
these four boxes and you get to be a vice president. We're like, I've never been a part of a company that's grown as fast as this one right now. It's super dynamic. The senior management needs of the organization are changing constantly. It's I may there may be more VPs next year. There may be fewer VPs next year, let alone but in this specific function. So I can tell you, that you should have a conversation with your direct, boss about what it takes to be successful in your role and how you're going to be measured in that role. I can't tell you that it's going to lead to a promotion or not. And I,
yeah.
I don't think, senior managers should let themselves get bullied into a to-do list of once, because of course the person's going to come back 3 months later and go, okay, I did all those things. Am I a vice president? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're in an
No, I totally agree. At Google, I remember people were always asking me. It was like they wanted the very complicated Lego set of instructions how to build their career.
yeah,
And I said, that's not the environment where I know you don't want to
yeah,
hear this, but if I could
yeah,
tell you exactly what it took to get promoted to the next level, then we wouldn't be in the kind of dynamic, fast-growing situation that we're in. But what I can tell you is, here are the OKRs that you've set for yourself, and I think they're great. And I can tell you, I can promise you that if I see you making a mistake, I'll always tell you, and your boss will always tell you.
yeah,
Your boss will be
it,
held accountable for telling
yeah,
you about
yeah.
mistakes and about opportunities for growth.
The funny thing is, and it's a sort of a core tenet of radical candor, so often the employee, the boss, the person with status in the work relationship, the boss or the boss's boss, um, they just are like, what can I do to get out of this conversation? So they
Yeah.
blame somebody else, or they tell
Yes.
you you're going to get to have the next pancake, or they go, well, I hear you're mean, so I wouldn't have done it anyway. Like, what
Yeah.
else do you want to talk about? And it's just,
It-
if
it-
you were just forthright, and you don't have to be mean when you're being forthright. You don't have to say, you didn't get promoted this time and you probably won't ever. You can just say,
Yeah.
look, I don't really know why you didn't get promoted this time, or here's my sense of what happened. I may be wrong. Let me go figure it out and I'll come back and tell you. You don't have to say, like, go ask Janet. Go figure it out yourself if the person's reporting to you.
Yeah.
Being forthright about it now and having the hard conversation now, even if the person doesn't like it, is 100 times better than, getting them out of the room now and making them feel good about themselves and creating misery for them 6 months from now, and then they quit. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with I want to transfer to this organization. I don't want to work on this project anymore. Managers do this stuff all the time.
Yeah. And I think that the really important thing that you were saying is that it is really hard to say there's not specific criteria. Like there is some judgment in this and there's some unpredictability in this. Like that's the really hard message that both the boss and the boss's boss needed to tell this person, and they were reluctant to say that. Because it's hard to say that. It feels unfair. Like I remember at one point I had a big team and they were complaining about ratings, about the quarterly ratings, and they weren't perfectly fair. And I stood up and I said, you know what? They're not perfectly fair. I'm not perfect. Your boss is not perfect. Like, we're going to get it wrong sometimes. And what I can promise you is that we're open to hearing about it when we get it wrong. But even in that case, like, we're going to try to make this come out as reasonably fair in the wash as we can over time. But like, this is a give and take. This is a back and forth, and we are not perfect. It's like, you're right. This is not perfect. Justice is not perfect in ratings and demanding false precision. And like, I remember you could have heard a pin drop in the room. This was not a popular message
of course.
to deliver.
Of course. And then let's look at call it the corollary to this story. Let's say the first manager, turns around and does nobody wants you to get promoted more than me, turns around and promotes this person next time. Word gets around the organization, hey, if you go in and complain to Janet, she'll get you promoted because she hates having hard conversations. So pretty soon everyone wants to work for Janet, and Janet's going to have 19 more of these people banging on her door and complaining to her instead of, it's like, and then, the person who is sitting there and crushing it and quietly, delivering for the organization and not going in and asking what it takes to be, promoted is the one who's sidelined. So, I mean, it's all horrible.
Yeah. This is why I think when I'm coaching CEOs of startups, I really strongly recommend that they set up a promotion process that is transparent and that can happen once a year. I mean, that's often enough at a startup, and that you can't offer people off cycle promotions because they're unhappy and you're trying, like, promotions are something that you do on a regular basis, and that and where there's process, because it can't be sort of unilateral management judgment, because that's not going to work very well.
And people should, as much as possible, understand where they stand, and your team as a manager, your team has to understand what you understand. And everyone, by the way, of course, that this person who said, I've been sitting on my hands waiting for you to get promoted, or has also, they tell this person A, and then they tell the next employee A prime. Everybody's not getting the same story. And then, of course, these people go out and talk to each other and are like, oh, really? Because she told me this, and then they realize, like, oh, this person's just telling everybody on their team what they want to hear. And now everybody on the team's miserable, not just this one person.
Yeah. And then the managers are like, don't talk to each other about promotions. Like, lots of luck telling people don't talk to each other.
Don't talk to each other about compensation. Great. Good luck with that.
All right. Well, I think we've solved a lot of the world's problems in a short amount of time. I want to thank you. It's always fun talking with you about this stuff.
Yeah, that was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. If you have a management dilemma, either you have a boss who you're having trouble dealing with, or you are a boss and you're not sure how to manage your team and you want some advice, send us an email to advice@radicalcandor.com. And we may not have good advice, but it is free. We will send it to you.